This meeting to order. Please call roll.
Trustee Knapp.
Here.
Trustee Ringel.
Here.
And Trustee Faust.
Here.
Next, we have pledge of allegiance. Okay, we are here tonight to hear rezoning application ZON-24-06, 7408 Africa Road. And how the hearing will work is we'll have the applicant give their presentation, and then the trustees will ask some questions, and then we'll have some questions from the public, and then we'll go back to the trustees for discussion. So everyone will be able to speak that wants to speak. So let's see, first, Mr. Duffy, would you like to give your report?
Thank you, Ms. Knapp. We are here to discuss a rezoning case ZON-24-06 for property located at 7408 Africa Road. This property is approximately 0.5 acres. The current zoning is farm residential, or FR1. The request is to rezone that acreage from FR1 to a new planned commercial and office district, or PCD, to allow for an office and showroom use for a construction company. The property is currently zoned FR1, as I mentioned, and has an existing residence on the property. In terms of the surrounding area, it's surrounded on all four sides by FR1 properties. To the north is Africa Road, and then to the west is Worthington Road, so right there on the corner of Africa and Worthington Roads. You can see the aerial view there with the property highlighted in yellow. On the following page is the applicant's development plan showing the property and the proposed building that would be constructed should this rezoning request be approved. A brief summary of the applicant's rezoning request. The applicant is the applicant is proposing to construct a roughly 5,000 square foot building that would be used as an office and showroom for the construction company, along with associated parking. The building would be roughly 2 stories in height with a measurement of 34 feet and 7.5 inches in height. The existing structure on the property would be demolished. In terms of the development standards, proposed setbacks are as follows. There would be a 50-foot setback from the Africa Road right-of-way, 25-foot setback from the Worthington Road right-of-way. Divergence would be required from this provision. A 30-foot setback from the eastern property line. A divergence would be required for this provision. And then a 33.67 foot setback from the southern property line. Divergence would also be required for that setback. Section 21.10 of the Orange Township zoning resolution requires that any non-residential use abutting a residential district to be located no closer than 100 feet from any residential lot line. So a divergence is requested. And this triggers that setback for both the eastern and the southern property lines. So that comes into play, increases that setback to 100 feet. And again, the applicant is requesting divergences for both of these setback lines. For the side, minimum required setback, as noted in section 21.09 of the Orange Township zoning resolution, is 70 feet. Or as approved in the development plan, because Worthington Road is a Class B road, that would normally be a 70-foot setback, so a divergence is requested and required for that setback as well. The setback from the eastern property line is 30 feet. The proposed setback from the southern property line is 33 2/3 feet, or 33 feet 8 inches. Again, divergence is requested and required for those setbacks. For open space and landscaping, the total open space provided is 0.12 acres, which is 27% of the property per section 14.07. Minimum required open space in this district is 25%, so they do meet that minimum requirement. The landscaping plan also indicates that a total of 64 arborvitae plants would be installed, along with a total of 31 various shrubs and bushes throughout the property. For parking, the applicant is proposing a total of 17 parking spaces. Per the requirements of the zoning resolution, the requirements for offices is 1 parking space for each 400 square foot of floor area, plus 1 for each employee, which, according to information provided by the applicant, would necessitate 22 parking spaces. So a divergence is required to have less than the minimum requirements for parking for 17 spaces instead of 22 spaces. For lighting, the applicant is proposing a number of downlit fixtures on the exterior of the building. No pole lighting is being proposed with this application. They are requesting a divergence from the lighting standards. We do have a requirement that all vehicular traffic areas be illuminated. They are requesting a divergence to have less than the normal amount of lighting required for their parking area. For signage, the applicant is proposing 2 signs, a 2-sided monument sign as well as 1 building-mounted sign. The building-mounted sign would measure approximately 20 feet 6 inches to the top of the sign. That is over our 15-foot requirement to the top of the sign. It's not technically a divergence if it were to be approved in the development plan, but just wanted to point that out. So to sum up the 4 divergences, there are a total of 4. The first is requesting a divergence from the requirement to plat the property following zoning approval, since the applicant is not proposing to split the current parcel or record any major easements for access or utilities. Again, a divergence from the requirements of section 21.01E for the parking spaces, and then the setback divergences as well, requesting divergence for setbacks for residential property lines for the south and east property lines from that 100-foot setback, and then section 21.12 requesting a divergence from the requirement that all vehicular traffic areas be illuminated. As for the comprehensive plan, the 2018 comp plan identifies this property to be within sub-area 7, also known as the Lower Alum Creek Valley. Sub-area is generally acknowledged as residential within the comprehensive plan. Recommendations within this sub-area consist of preserving the deep ravines as common open spaces and not allowing developments within the floodplain. In terms of technical review from other agencies and commissions, the Orange Township Fire Department has reviewed and conceptually approved the layout of the site plan prior to this hearing. The Delaware County Regional Planning Commission heard this application at their September 26th, 2024 hearing date. They issued their recommendation of conditional approval subject to 4 conditions. 1 is that the driveway should be moved as far to the east as possible. 2 is that the preliminary drainage plan should be submitted for comment. 3, consider installing a sidewalk along the Africa Road right-of-way as approved by the County Engineer's Office. And then the consideration of using parking pavers in some spaces in order to add to the amount of green space on the property, and then to consider flipping the layout to address these issues and also accommodate the driveway relocation to the east side of that property. Since those comments were made, the applicant did revise their site plan. The drive is now on the east side of the property. The Orange Township Zoning Commission recommended approval with modifications by a 3-2 vote at their meeting on October 8th, subject to the following modifications. 1, that applicant will provide evidence that the fire department has reviewed and approved the site plan prior to approval of the rezoning by the township trustees. 2, the applicant will revise the site plan to include a 10-foot multi-use path along the frontage of Africa Road. 3, the applicant will revise the site plan to move the Africa Road entrance to the eastern portion of the property. 4, no construction vehicles such as heavy construction equipment will be stored on site. 5, no storage of construction material shall be permitted. 6, no outdoor storage shall be permitted. 7, dumpster will be screened. And 8, applicant shall revise plan to reduce building height to a maximum of 35 feet. The applicant has revised their application and provided us with updated materials to meet all of those modifications to our satisfaction. That is all I have for now. I'll be on hand if the board has any questions.
Okay, when the applicant come up and please give a presentation.
Thank you. Is this on?
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Painter, attorney on behalf of the applicant Stellar Construction. My address is 5029 Cemetery Road, Hilliard, Ohio. I have with me tonight, if the trustees have any questions, Gary Dunn, who is the designer of this layout, and Brian Lips, who is one of the owners of Stellar Construction. As noted by staff, my client is requesting a rezone from FR1 to Planned Commercial Office District. I think this is an exciting project for this area. About Stellar Construction is a small locally owned business founded in 2013, is currently leasing space in Powell. They've outgrown that space and would like to have, as all business owners, their own space to own and operate. They specialize in small commercial residential projects across central Ohio, especially in the local area that we are in, here on the north side of the Columbus area. Why Orange Township? One, Stellar is deeply involved in the community. By purchasing land on Africa Road, they envision creating a strong home base for their company. They plan to build a residential style property. We'll see some renderings here to preserve the essential character of the area. They are a high-end remodeling company, so they have the utmost interest in keeping that property nice and tidy. One of the good things about this, it will increase the property value, which will help with property taxes. There are 6 employees that will be working on site for the most part. We do believe it will increase the quality of the building in that area. And I know there's some concerns by the residents. With this, and having done this, I think this type of project will block larger, more intensive uses from going on that site or in that area. Can we go to the next one? Thank you. Just to kind of back out here a little bit, you can see the site. And near here is Acorn Farms, which my understanding there's a lot of traffic coming off this. I think it's to the east, there's a little open area between where our client's proposed project going and the EPCON. That is owned by a company called SGN2. They're not part of this development. We really don't have any idea what they plan to do with that property. Can you go in a little bit? The next one, please. Next slide, I'm sorry. There we go. There's been some conversation we have seen on social media about this intersection. As you can see in the red lines there, those are right-of-ways reserved owned by the county. Those are preserved for future, probably intersection development. I think there's a retention basin on one of those right-of-ways. And this kind of gives a good explanation of why one of the divergences is requested right next to my client's proposed project. You see that small little strip. Well, the right-of-way has to be, or the setback has to be off that right-of-way. Well, as you can see, that right-of-way is really, really close up to the property. If the full setback was there, they would not have any room on that parcel of land to build it. That's why the divergence is requested, because of that right-of-way being as far over as it is, and because of the size of the lot that they plan to build on. Here are some of the renderings of this project. This is a view from Africa Road. You can see the residential nature of the proposed project. In this rendering, you can also see the 10-foot path that will be installed along Africa Road. Let me go back to that one real quick. You can kind of see here the parking renditions. They are requesting less parking than the code requires. The code requires 22 parking spots. We are asking for 17, in large part because they're not going to need that many spots due to only having 6 employees, not people coming 1 or 2 trips a day. They don't anticipate having a lot of people on site for the most part. There'll be a little bit more on Friday because of they have their staff meetings there, but really this is for the professionals and some of the customers to come in and see the proposed showroom. Also, there was request by staff to reduce the height of the building to 35 feet. That's been taken and accounted for. And I think as staff said, the open space requirement here is a minimum of 25% under section 14.07 of your code. With these changes, we meet that. I believe the open space is now 27%. Next one, please. This is a view from Worthington Road. We talked about lighting, and that's another divergence that was requested. And again, that's because of the nature of the business and the operations. This business is open from 9 to 5. They're not going to have traffic at night that would require the lighting like normal. Next one, please. And this is the back of the property rendering. As you can see, one of the requests by staff was to kind of give some more screening to the dumpster area. That has been done, and it gives the trustees a really good idea of all the plants and other landscaping that's going to be put in to buffer this site from the neighbors. There's also a lot of pre-existing mature trees there that will help there too. I will also note that one of the conditions that will be met by my client is that no materials will be stored outside, no heavy construction equipment will be stored on site either. And as I stated earlier, the applicant has a lot of incentive to keep this property clean due to the nature of bringing high-end customers in to see how they can remodel and make good to construction. Next one, please. I apologize. I was in a meeting till 12 o'clock last night, so I'm a little tired, so bear with me here. This is kind of the landscape plan, the types of trees and the types of bushes that will be put in as part of the landscaping plan. We meet the landscaping plan, and obviously we want to be good neighbors and keep the property kept up really well. Next one. Activities on site, as I stated earlier, the office is really designed for 6 employees, showroom for clients. There is a storage area for the showroom items such as the bathroom faucets, cabinetry, all those items that we expect to see in a showroom. As I mentioned before, no large equipment such as dump trucks will be stored on site. The work vans are taken home at night, so we don't have those types of vehicles there at night. Minimal traffic, no weekend traffic, as I stated earlier. Business hours about 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I think I mentioned also before that there will be a little bit more employees on site because they do use on Fridays because they do have their staff meetings on that day. Next one. This is a small commercial building. It's purposely designed as a residential style to blend seamlessly with the neighborhood and ensuring it complements the existing community atmosphere. Traffic and activity are designed to be taken away from the intersection. By placing the building on this site, we prevent high traffic areas from crowding the nearby intersection, maintaining safety and ease of access for all residents. That we have run this by the Delaware County Engineer's Office, and they have approved the ingress and egress, especially with the driveway being shifted to the east. And as I said earlier, I think with this plan, with low intensity, it kind of blocks, a bigger development coming and buying those lots and put in more intensive use right on Africa Road. Again, it'll be clean and well maintained. We have enhanced screening and lighting regulations, and we do not anticipate any drainage concerns. If this zoning is approved, we'll work with the Delaware County Engineer's Office on that drainage engineering at that time. I know that some neighbors have raised concerns about the development, and I get that, and they have the right to ask questions, and we're thankful for them to do it. I just want to remind you for the record that Stellar has the right to be judged on their own application, not what may happen on other pieces of property in the area. And that's just our constitutional state rights. Just because we get rezoned, if we get rezoned by the trustees, doesn't automatically make it that other properties in the area will get rezoned. Any future decisions, I think there's been a lot of concern about that property owned by SGN2. That's fully within the discretion of this board, and you guys will make those decisions at that time. We do believe that putting this low-impact, low-intensity improvement on Africa Road will block some potential intensity that could go on Africa Road, especially near the intersection. There's been some speculation about the SGN2 site behind us, behind the applicant, to be for uses like trailer parks or gas stations and whatnot. Obviously, that is a decision of the board and the community, but having done this for years, those sites don't look appropriate. That site does not look appropriate for those types of uses based on our experience. And we do think that the style that we have put in there is really suited for the residential character of this area. Next one, please. Again, as I stated, we're not asking for any tax abatement, and this will put a nice value property on there to help generate some additional taxes for the township and for the community and for the schools. Last one, please. I just want to go over the divergences here a little bit. I think some people hear divergences and think we're totally abdicating the code, the zoning code. That's not the case. We have divergences because as soon as you pass a zoning code without divergences, you would automatically be violating private property owners' rights. So we have divergences for due process issues and build some flexibility because each piece of property is different, as the board knows. And in this case, these divergences are very, very minor for what we can see in some other projects. The plat requirement, as stated, is there's no easements here. It's a very small piece of property. We don't think that's necessary here. The parking spaces, as I stated, we're asking for reduction, not an increase, because it's a lower intensity property. The setbacks I went through because of the property and where that right-of-way sits and the type of property in that area, and then the lighting requirements to be reduced. Obviously, we want to be good neighbors, and we don't want lighting to interfere with people at night, and they're not going to be there at that time. So that was a lot. More than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's see, so I'm sure we have a lot of questions for you. Will there be any large trucks, like pickup trucks or F-150s or those kind of construction vehicles?
Yep.
If you can give me an address, please.
Brian Lips, 1729 State Route 3 in Sunbury. I'm the owner of the company. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Will you be having just typical vehicles, passenger vehicles, or will there be trucks that your company uses, like pickup trucks and things like that?
They're all passenger vehicles. Some of us drive trucks, but, regular passenger trucks.
So no company trucks. Do you have company vehicles?
Yeah, we have vans mostly, but the guys take those home at night as a convenience for the staff so that they have a vehicle to drive back and forth to work, so those all go home. Regular sized work vans, like you might see if you have an electrician come to your house to fix something type
So
van.
those are not parked overnight?
They're not.
Okay, and how many employees do you presently have?
We're in the 26 range on an average basis, but most of those are people that work in the field. A couple salespeople in the office manager, assistant, and a designer, and an assistant for the designer primarily.
And how many will you have at this new location?
It's same. Yeah, the staff's not increasing in size.
Okay, so will all 26 ever be on site at the same time?
So we have done in the past like a monthly team meal, but we can make adjustments to do that at a different location to make it easier for the neighborhood.
Because you only have, 17 parking spaces?
Correct. Correct. There's 6 two-man teams that ride together though, so there's not as many vehicles.
How many people will normally be there during office hours?
Yeah, so it could be as few as 2 or maybe as many as 6 on an average basis. That may balloon up to 10 or so for a weekly staff meeting that we do for the management team that goes between the hours of 10:30 and noon on Fridays. So it's not during the high traffic hours of the day.
And your current office in Powell, is it correct that it's not located in a residential area?
That's correct, it's not. Does, I don't know if it's industrial, but it's like a little office building right off of Powell Road.
Is it zoned commercial, do you know?
I would imagine. There's several offices there.
Is there any warehouse in there?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's see here. All right, I'll let everyone else, I have more questions that I'd ask.
You got some?
Yes, I do. Questions about water runoff. It was mentioned in the presentation that was provided that there weren't any current concerns about anticipated drainage issues. I am not an engineer, but that property, from my estimation, is elevated compared to the rest of the surrounding corner. And if I understand the application correctly, we're talking about doing asphalt pavement over a lot of what is currently green space. Is there a consideration for making that asphalt permeable to potentially deal with the increased potential water runoff to neighboring properties?
Gary's a little more familiar with that. I'll let him speak on that.
Gary Dunn, 3060 Abbey Drive, Snow Center.
Can you use the microphone just so we can catch it on the YouTube? Thank you.
Gary Dunn, 3060 Abbey Knoll Drive, Lewis Center. Because of the cost of developing an actual drainage plan with an engineer, we've not hired anyone to do that yet, pending resolution of the zoning issue, but it is our intent to obviously do that and comply with whatever requirements are necessary, whether that be on-site stormwater retention or whatever may be required to accomplish that.
In your experience, I'm assuming you've done lots of design, is there space, if they were to need some sort of retention space, is there space in the remaining 27% open, green space for retention? I know it's not your field, but.
The short answer is probably, but if not, we can do under pavement stormwater retention if required.
Is that more expensive?
It tends to be more expensive, yes. But it is, effectively dealing with the issue.
Okay.
I think the issue was raised during the zoning commission hearing about the sewer or septic accessibility on the site. And that's a conversation, I think, with the county health district. Is that conversation ongoing, or?
Well, we're at a point where we know we can go one of two directions. We just haven't moved forward with that either because they both require engineering. But the potential for sewer requires us to extend a sewer lateral through the adjoining property to the south. And
Is that the SGN?
SGN.
Okay.
And as of this moment, we haven't worked out any sort of an agreement to allow an easement for that.
Have you started the conversation yet?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We also, because of that quote-unquote impasse, we hired a soil engineer, and we have a tentative process for doing on-site sewage treatment for the building, which is already in existence on the property now, but a different system. And we know that we can provide for that one of two ways. We just, both paths require engineering and cost, so we haven't undertaken that yet.
And that's like a septic tank, correct?
That would be a septic system, yes.
Would you have a leach field or anything, or would it be like a mounting system?
It's actually a hybrid of that, and I don't have the specifics with me, but it's a system that's designed to pre-treat and then slowly produce the effluent into a retention basin, similar to a leach field, but it's a different program.
And there's space for that on the site,
Yes,
even
yes.
with the asphalt?
Yeah, and that would be a rather unobtrusive, you wouldn't see that, it wouldn't even be it's not mounded like a conventional mound system either. So.
And the next question I've got for the moment is regarding the landscaping, especially as it borders the property to the east. You have, I think, in your application that it would there'd be arborvitae along that boundary. Let's see, what is the height that we're anticipating? Because I think there was some concerns expressed by public comment at the zoning commission that residents felt that there wouldn't have been enough privacy provided by the proposed landscaping?
Well, to address that concern, a couple of things. One, we have a fencing around our dumpster, and then we added some pine trees that would be 8+ feet tall pine trees to basically shield the dumpster from the east and the south. And the arborvitaes would typically be approximately 6 feet tall when we plant them, so they tend to grow pretty fast, and if we're not maintained, but we'd want to keep them not, they can grow 30 feet. We're not looking to have arborvitae 30 feet tall there, but provide a nice barrier for viewing.
Yeah, Gary, the homeowner directly to the east. Sorry. The homeowner directly to the east, I think, the right of the property, right? Mm-hmm. Requested that we do a privacy fence on that side of the lot to shield his house a little more, and we agreed to do that also.
Okay. That's the whole, basically from Africa coming in.
I don't know how far.
But it's the long side of the property, okay.
That is not in the text or in the development plan. I feel. Sorry?
Is that the property directly to the east?
Mhm.
The resident owned by the Ross JVs, is that correct?
I can't answer that for sure. Don't know.
I guess following off of that, we segue to Erica. Have there been conversations with the neighbors to the east on whether or not they think a commercial development next door is appropriate for that corner?
Well, I believe we haven't spoken directly with them, but I do know that at the committee or commission meeting, they spoke. I can't say that they were opposed, but they didn't give us a rousing approval either. So I'll let them speak for themselves.
I think they answered most of my questions. So just to confirm, when I was looking through basically your specs here, when I look at section 14.06B2, it references the building height of the 36 feet 2 inches, but my understanding is in section 1407B and 2102, it said it would be 34 and 7.5, so I'm assuming it's just, we missed the first change.
Yeah, I thought I'd revised, maybe I missed one of the spots in the text. But
Okay, so the fourth.
Yeah. It's actually, I believe, 34.7.
Okay, that was what the staff said. And then, Robin, just to confirm, so I understand the divergence along Worthington Road because there is that basically half-acre property-ish between you guys and Worthington Road. But what did the, if we're doing planned commercial, Robin, along the eastern and southern line of the property, because it is against residential, they're requesting 30 and then 33 and 2/3 basically. And is that supposed to be 100 in our code?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So, I forget your name.
It's Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. All right. So you mentioned that if this was rezoned with this project, that it could block more intensive use of other lots. Or it could block more intensive use, basically, I think was the words that you had used. I was wondering if you could explain how.
Well, if you go back to that map, can you go back to the roads?
Yeah. On yours, yes.
That one?
Is there one that's farther out? Maybe, can you go to the one that you had up, I think was more on the site, I'm sorry. Give you a better example.
This one?
She did zoom in on that at one point.
Yeah, it doesn't, in my experience, if you take that corner, if somebody came in and took, I think it's Mr. Henry Lovett's property, they took the neighbor's property, and then they kind of they kind of bought two properties. They would have that, they could have a bigger development on there, and it'd be up closer to that intersection. When you put this property kind of there on the corner, basically, you kind of, they're there, so you're not going to be able to combine as many lots as possible. Plus, you're going to move any higher intensity activity away from that intersection as well too. But I think if you have that, you know, you're gonna block some of the higher intensity that people could combine and have that whole front. I mean, that kind of screams to me like a little bit of a strip mall, so to speak. If you had all those three sites for like a convenience store area, I mean, that just is kind of looking. But I think if you have that, you kind of block that to a certain degree, and like I said, I think you kind of keep those higher intense potentials away from that intersection.
But that would still be predicated on the other applicants coming to the township level.
And you would have the discretion to block it as well, too,
trying to rezone
absolutely.
as well, right?
And-
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I know, I think some people have raised the issue about the property to the south, the SGN2, there's a house and there's a couple of barns on there again. And that property, the SGN2 owns not only the barn, but I think their property, they also own the lot. It'd be to the south, so it goes between African and Worthington Road. And obviously, you know, whoever owns that, whatever they want to do, because I believe I looked at FR1 currently too, they're going to have to come back to this board and go through the whole zoning process and go to Delaware Regional Planning and go to your commission. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through before anybody could get that to be a commercial use on that site. And
Does anyone know why they took all of that and made it right away on the old, three corners? They took two houses down on the northeast corner. What is, does anyone know what the future is? What it is?
You want to come up to the mic and just,
So, my name is Jennifer Ruoff, 7327 Africa Road. So, in order for the township to get the easements, the people who lived in this house on this side and on this house on this side, well, they weren't planning on taking this house. They took that house, and the only way that it was too close to the road, the only way that they could widen the road there was to take that house. The one, the southeast. Now the south, or the northeast, or, right? Where the big circle is. That one was never planned on being taken. Those people, the county miscalculated where their leach bed was, and that family sued the township.
the county.
Or the county in order, because there was no place else for their leach bed to go. And they ended up having to take that property because they miscalculated that corner completely. So that's why it is so open there, is because the house, they were planning on keeping the home there, but they didn't do their due diligence in planning that.
So northeast?
So the pond is a retention pond for all the drain off, which the county is still working on. We actually had construction out today, or yesterday, trying to fix it because they didn't do it right, and so they're trying to fix the water runoff there. For that whole intersection, because it's actually washing away our neighbors' driveways on all of our sides. Ours luckily is not gravel, but the ones that are gravel are, it's not retaining water. It actually doesn't retain water so much that we ice skate on it. Our kids and I play hockey on it in the winter. When it should be almost full. And then the other corner, those lots are just really little. So I think they're considering, they just had to take that house, because again, that house was, this intersection kept getting bigger.
It was set back so far from the road, you can still see it on old Google Maps. That house is really far back. Was there a leach bed there?
Their leach bed was on the side of their house onto Africa Road, because all of those houses, really looking at them up close, because that makes that intersection look really big. It is not that big if you drive through it. All of those houses were actually really close to the road, all of them. So that's why it looks bigger there than it is, but when you drive through it, when we moved into the neighborhood, I grew up here, when we moved in here to our home 8 years ago, all of the houses that were still present were right on top of the road. So that's why they took such a big area, is because they couldn't widen the road without going into leach beds or taking homes.
That makes more sense, because I couldn't get anything
I know,
on that, it didn't make any sense, I've never seen anything.
which I have the plans if you guys ever were to want them, but that's why they ended up taking those, is because there wasn't enough room in the intersection to do what they wanted to do.
So those properties then will always remain county, and it would never.
You know what, though? I don't trust that necessarily, because there is still space that they could eventually sell them down the road. They weren't planning on being sued and spending $500,000 on the one property, so why would they not want to recoup that one day?
It's a lot of property on the northeast side in particular.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of property there. I don't,
Okay.
the county, you don't never know. They can say that, but that doesn't mean it can't change.
But they would have to, same as anybody else, they would have to come to us, and if it wanted to go commercial, because right now it is still FR. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah,
That's helpful.
Yeah,
That's
no
super
problem.
helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
May I add one thing too? We did reach out to the Delaware County Engineer's Office for traffic counts because I was curious.
Yeah.
And interesting, nobody could tell us an answer. We went to Morpsey and whatever, because I was curious. I mean, I don't think we're going to add, but we could not find the traffic counts on this. Because I wanted to see, like, come in for work, leave, you're talking minimal trips. I don't think you're going to add, but it's interesting that nobody has the traffic counts for this intersection either. We did look into that, to have that information tonight, we couldn't figure it
All you
out.
have to do is come there at 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night.
You would think they would have that for, when they were widening the intersection. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I had one more question. Yes, one more question. So in the rendering where you show us the dumpster enclosure, it shows obviously the arborvitaes, and then it shows the 5 or 6, maybe it was the hemlocks? Yeah, the pine trees, are those the hemlocks? But the deciduous trees behind that are on the adjacent property, correct? Okay. Okay.
What is the new elevation going to be for the foundation, because it doesn't have a basement, right? The new building, okay.
No good.
Okay, so it will be on slab instead of concrete?
Yes.
So at what elevation, how much higher will that be than the existing home or the existing grade?
Again, the final design is not done with it, but I would say our foundation finished floor will be probably less than the current foundation height, because they're
It's a,
not on slab, they'll be slightly
It'll be below that?
lower.
Because sometimes, like near where I live, there's a 2-story commercial building, 2.5 stories, but I swear it was built like, what seems to be 10 feet above the elevation, so it just towers over everything else, so it's kind of important consideration.
Yep.
We're gonna be hugging the ground, and as, somebody already mentioned, the ground does slope to the south, so we're gonna be putting it as slow as we can to mitigate that.
just speak close to it.
So the reduction, the setbacks on the east and south sides from 100 to 30, won't that actually, I wouldn't want to live 30 feet away. I know you're building setback further, but doesn't reducing that substantially actually end up possibly decreasing those property values, the residential ones?
I'm sorry to hear your full question.
If you're reducing the east and south from 100 feet to 30-foot setback, it would seem that would harm the neighboring properties by reducing it by that much. I wouldn't want to be, that close to a commercial property.
I am not an appraiser, so I'm not going to speculate, but I could agree with your premise if it was something like a convenience store or a gas station. I think that, in my experience, this being more of a residential character, I think the impact would be probably minimal, if any. In fact, you put something that nice next to what's currently there, it could actually possibly raise those values a little bit too.
Well, we do have the 100-foot, okay, everybody, just stay calm. I would think, we put the 100 feet in there for a reason, though. So that is to protect the residential property owners who, like I said, 30 feet is nothing. I mean, even though a building is set back, that's very minimal. That's just really small.
No, I understand. I haven't done the calculation. My guess if you put it both 100 feet off, there's probably not enough room on that lot to build the building, especially have to be off that right of way to the north.
Okay.
That's correct. And I mean, the other thing to potentially have is the regulation says 100 feet to the property line. Both homes, both to the south and to the east, are not right on the property line. So we are more than 30 feet
From the buildings.
Yeah.
But this could be a property that could be redeveloped into, if someone were to raise the existing building, you could put another home on it, because it fits within our residential setbacks, right, which is the 12 feet? Or is that just in an SFPRD?
That would be SFPRD.
What is FR1, is it 50?
Yeah, what is the FR1 setbacks?
Is it
I
50
believe
or?
it's 30 or 35 feet from the
Is it?
side yards,
Okay.
but the bigger issue is it's smaller than the minimum lot size of FR1.
Oh, yeah, that's true. What is the minimum? One
It's
acre, right?
1.98 acres.
1.98?
Yes.
It's 1.9, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I have to say that I don't find that, this building is absolutely beautiful. I mean, in a commercial area, it's gorgeous. It would fit, but I don't find it to be anything close to being a house or residential in nature at all. It's huge. It's like 6 times bigger than the existing home. It's, like, I forget, like 20% taller than a 2-story house, and obviously much higher than the existing home. So I feel like this will just stick out like a sore thumb in an area that's supposed to be residential. So I mean, it is beautiful. It is, obviously, we've spent a lot of time on it, but I don't feel like it's in the residential character. So let's see, we have something in the township called the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. This was created in 2001 and has been updated several times, last being in 2018. It's a set of policy statements and maps that guides future land use and development, and it serves as a guide during the rezoning process. I was an employee back in 2001. I've actually been here since 1998, when the very first land use plan was created and implemented. And the zoning commission, in conjunction with the regional planning director at that time, and dozens of residents, spent hundreds of hours to lay out how the township was to be built out. They wanted to ensure the separation of residential and commercial areas and to maintain natural spaces and rural qualities where possible. We have commercial only in certain areas of the township for a reason, in order to maintain residential environment in our residential areas. Most of our commercial is east of the railroad tracks. We have one exception, which is Evans Farm, and that's a whole different animal. We did this in order to protect the residents from commercial development and to conserve and protect the natural resources and scenic areas. This entire area has a rural feel, and any kind of commercial development will substantially change that. This area is surrounded by residential developments, and as was stated earlier, this is in sub-area 7 in the land use plan. A single-family area with lower densities of 1 unit per acre, and densities of up to 2 units per acre with centralized sanitary sewer could be built. So the land use plan indicates this is a residential area, and this is supposed to be a residentially zoned property. If you take a look at our zoning maps, you'll see that there's absolutely no commercial at all on that side. There's like a tiny little section. Do we have that?
Here.
Do you have the zoning map?
This is the comp plan. That's what you want. That's
Hold
sub-area
on, I
7.
actually brought a copy. So if you look at the, I actually thought I brought it with me. If you look at the zoning map, the entire side, there's absolutely no commercial. So, oh yeah, here it is. So this is a really small version of it, but you can see this is all over a commercial off of 23. You see no red over here at all. There's a little tiny section here off of like Worthington Road at the very base, but there's absolutely no area that's planned to be commercial over here. So I'm pretty disappointed that regional planning would have recommended this, because what they said in their recommendation, I believe, is incorrect. see, they said, based on its location, it is anticipated that the property immediately to the south of the subject property will eventually be developed as commercial, and I want to know who says that.
I was brought on this case a week ago. I was not there. So I'm
But I would like to
Yeah.
know, because I've talked to several
Yeah.
people, and I have no idea who these people are.
I-
They're saying this whole thing is going to go commercial. I live actually on the far west side of the township, so I don't have to see this every day, but it's an absolutely beautiful part of our township, and I would hate to see any commercial there. Now, if this was actually planned to be commercial, that would be different. We would have to pretty much approve it, but in our land use plan, that's not what it says. So in the Regional Planning Commission, they said, let's see, public input in the land use plan stated that residents and business owners wish to see more well-planned commercial development to help balance out the overwhelmingly residential development of the township. Residents, I looked through the whole land use plan, I see nothing where any resident wants any commercial there. It says well-planned commercial development, which to me means complies with our zoning map, which shows commercial in a different area. They also stated that well-planned commercial development is supported by the community, and again, I find that to be completely incorrect, because again, this is where the commercial is going, and there's no commercial here. So I think most residents support commercial in the township, but where it's to be appropriate located. I would not consider this to be well-planned. Your site is well-planned, I really admire it, but in this location, I don't consider this to be a well-planned commercial. I have a few more questions. I would like to know if the property owner checked the comprehensive land use plan before they purchased the property? Or you haven't purchased it yet?
Purchase the property.
Okay, but the current property owner, did they check it to see if it would be,
The property wasn't listed on the residential market when he decided to sell, I think because they knew they couldn't sell it as a residential property because of what's been done to the intersection there. The price that he's getting for the lot to be able to sell it to somebody like us to do something low use is the most viable thing for that lot to serve. It's got about a 900 square foot house on it, I believe, on a half acre. So a developer who wanted to build a house to sell as a residence couldn't pay what they need to pay for that property, and then put the level of house that needs to go on that property for that market to be able to create something that somebody could actually, want to invest in. $800,000 or $1 million for a house on that market just doesn't work on that lot.
so the house cannot be lived in currently?
No,
It's
it
unlivable?
could be. I don't know if he could sell it for what he's trying to get out of it now because of the situation with that intersection and what's going on there.
Okay, so he
It could
purchased,
maybe be a rental or an
Yeah.
Airbnb or something like that.
okay, because when he purchased the property for $150,000 on May 5th of 2021, does he think it's no longer worth that amount?
I can't answer that question, I'm sorry.
Did the intersection construction happen?
2021.
So before or after the current owner
Before.
purchased the house? The road construction was done?
He was paid $60,000 for the improvements by the county, $60,000. So my argument is, at that point, he never apparently argued that property could not be developed or could not be lived in. And he got $60,000, and then he sold it to this new property owner. And I want to know if the current property owner somehow thought this was going to be commercial, because in our land use plan, it did not indicate that it was going to be commercial.
I can't speak to that.
Is he not here?
He is here. I did ask him to come tonight.
Okay.
Henry Levitt, 7408 Africa Road. When we bought that property from the previous owner, we didn't plan on going commercial, but everybody talked about it. Our neighbor Brian has been talking about they can build a little mini shopping center on his lot. Of course he'll sell, but he wants $2 million. No one's going to pay $2 million for 2 acres. And Karen, that owned the property behind us, she sold for $825. Well, investment company bought that because they know that area is next area that's going to be commercial, meaning building office buildings. Everybody talks about it.
Who is everybody?
Our neighbors, Brian, Karen, that owned the property that sold, she knew it was going to eventually go commercial. She just couldn't do the house, the yard maintenance, because she's a widow. She's been there her family's owned it for like 40-some years.
That's the property to the south?
Yes. The SG2 that owns.
But when you purchased the property in 2021, did you check the land use plan to see whether it could be ever rezoned commercial in the future, or whether there were plans for us to do that?
No, it didn't.
Okay. Okay, so, are you, and you've been living in the property since then?
Yes.
Right,
We've been there
and
for like 4 years now.
when?
Like
Oh, 4 years ago, okay, since 2021. I think that's all the questions I have for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a couple more things here. Let's see here. Yeah, it was listed, but that's the choice by the owner to list it on a commercial, by a commercial realtor, correct?
Yes, I guess I was asking more if if my client had any communication with the township before they purchased the property or into the contract. I got to make the record, so I'm the attorney. But I hear what you're saying about the comprehensive plan. I read it myself this past week. I don't take any issue with how you've characterized it, because I read it. I will say for comprehensive plans, they are plans, they are guide paths, but the law also allows, in certain circumstances, for townships and for municipalities to diverge from those comprehensive plans. And I think they should be limited cases, but this is one of those times where I think it makes a little bit of sense. But I do want to say I recognize it, but we have to make the record here.
Because when I went back to look at the Google Maps, it showed a for sale sign October 2022 by the Richard Ellis, the CBRE, whatever real estate.
CBRE.
CBRE?
Yeah, it showed it, right. So within a year and a few months of moving in, it was already listed commercially. So that, so I think residents in this area, all of them purchased their property and built their homes knowing they would be surrounded by residential properties in perpetuity. They're very beautiful condos to the south. They're $400,000. The homes around there are very nice. The people that live in the area, their homes are beautiful, and most of them are very expensive. So I don't personally find that, at this point, I still want to get some more testimony. I'm just one of three, but I don't find that this complies with the land use plan or the vision of the township. It just doesn't seem to fit in the area, even though, like I said, it's a beautiful property, and we like more businesses to come in. I just don't think it's the appropriate area, so. Do you guys have more questions for right now?
Open it up to public comment.
I had a
Yeah.
comment before the residents begin. For the
Yeah,
residents.
yeah, go ahead.
The only comment I had for the residents is when I listened to the zoning commission hearing, there was a zoning commission member who seemed to, I think it could have been heard in a way that this was a done deal, that the ball was rolling down the hill, that kind of stuff. As you've heard tonight from the trustees, this is not in the comp plan, and this is a decision that this is not a done deal.
Yeah, and I have that on here as well, but there was a comment made that they're beholden to the system. There's no system. I don't know what he was talking about, that we're caught in this system. There is no system, so I don't know where that came from. I thought, was there something I don't know? But to my knowledge, there's nothing, and we take these matters very seriously and listen to the residents and also to ourselves and our own judgment. So, okay, well, come on up if you'd like to give a public comment. Give your name and address, and try to keep it as brief as you can. And then if you want to come up after someone has already said something you agree with, you can just say that you agree with that person and add whatever you want to it. So come on up.
Oh, and please address your questions to us. There will not be back and forth conversation during the public comment. We'll take notes, and the applicant will also take notes, and then they will address everyone's questions at the end.
Tom Garski, 7364 Worthington Road. I do want to ask a quick question. By show of hands, how many people are residents of the area? And how many people are opposed to this going in? Thank you. Just for your behalf, I'd like to point that out. For those that might not want to make comment, just a couple quick points. The objection as a homeowner in the area, the biggest objection I have is to the number of variances that are being requested, which I feel are significant. And to the point of this not falling within the comprehensive plan, it seems way too far a reach to go for something like this. So personally, while they say it shouldn't be based on any kind of precedent setting, that's the biggest fear I have in this whole situation, is that if this is allowed to go with this many variances, the precedent for other developers to come in and take other properties in that area and turn them into commercial developments is what I want to avoid as a homeowner in the area. So that's the point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
My name's Luke Ruoff. I live at 7327 Africa Road. I agree with Tom. A couple other good points that I have questions about is my wife and our realtors, she'll come up and talk to, and having commercial property that close to your residence absolutely does impact its value. So we could run comps and present them as evidence of other examples of when that happens, but it's a real thing. There was one other thing. Tom stole one of mine about the precedents. That's real. And I might just have to come back up. I'm sorry.
That's good.
Thank you.
Oh, hang on. Nope, it's gone. I was almost there.
My name is Eric McCoy. I 7776 Blue Juniper. I live in the Villas in Maple Creek, and I don't know where to begin. This is such a wrong thing to do. First of all, I agreed with him about the number of divergencies, that it does set a precedent that's totally inappropriate. He says he doesn't have a traffic count. I do. I live there. I drive through that intersection every day, and morning and evening. And I'll tell you something. In the middle of the day, it's fine. But in the morning and the evening, it's a bear. You can wait 4 or 5 traffic lights to get through that intersection both ways, both Worthington and Africa, okay? You add 26 possible employees, and he didn't mention that he has customers, but 26 plus customers, okay? You also talk about the septic system. Again, a building with 26 employees, not there all the time, I understand, but what kind of septic system can handle that with customers? Okay, what about the drainage off of that? Okay, that would be coming who knows where. The other lady talked about that. I don't know about that. All I know is that when you cover that small a property, and I quote you, it's a small property, okay? You put a building that size on that small a property with that kind of parking, and you got a major problem. Let's see, septic size. I tried to make notes while they were talking. They say it's going to appear residential, and it is. It's a beautiful building, but it doesn't belong there. A mile up the road, a mile down the road, zone commercial. They can put it anywhere they want. The only reason I feel, and I could be completely wrong, that they want it there is greed. Somebody wants to make some money because they can buy that land cheaper than they can going towards Polaris Galaxy or down towards Westerville. Polaris Galaxy, when that thing gets built, that traffic added on to what they want, that's going to be nuts. It's already not great. That's why they did the intersection in the first place, because it was already backed up. Now you put in Polaris Galaxy, and you have their traffic extra, which is going to be customers and is employees, and that's going to be nuts, okay? Well, the biggest thing is, like I said, there's so many other opportunities that are close there. I was a small businessman, I was retired. But he's got other opportunities, and they're not very far up and down the road, and they are very useful. Thank you for your attention, honorable trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Ruoff, 7327 Africa Road. So what Luke had said, I agree with all of them, but what Luke had forgotten to say, he had texted it to me instead of coming back up, is it's being presented under the assumption, them building this, that they're gonna own it forever. So then what happens when they sell it to someone else? They don't have to come back to you for another company to be there that will have all those parking spots filled every day. I will have to say, there was a comment made by someone in their party last time to one of the resident owners in the condos that said, well, what did you think your property was prior to them building those condos? Except those condos are residential. So I felt like that was like super offensive. He also said this fits into the area and it's such a nice building, it will improve those houses. So does that mean those of us who live in the area, our houses are crap? It's a 5,000 square foot building. None of the houses that are in our area are 5,000 square feet. They're not. Mine's 1,600. And that is, so are all the other people on our side, on our part of Africa. And actually, most of them are only that big. Maybe 3,000, maybe. When they purchased the property, it was during the construction. They knew what it was going to be. Now they're trying to get money out of it, and it doesn't seem fair to us. They put up the sign right away. They're ready to sell it right away, like they were going to make money off of it, but never even considered their neighbors, never even considered what you guys would say, and you do set precedents. It is absolutely right in how you do it. Moving the driveway, it really doesn't make a difference because that area is so small. It really is only moving it like maybe 20 feet. It's not moving it enough to make a difference. It doesn't surprise me the county allowed it to go because they'd like for you guys to be the bad guys in a lot of cases and be the ones to say no. Sorry, I'm trying to look because I made notes while we were talking. Blocking intensive use, he wants it to be his constitution, it's their constitutional right to ask for this and not be judged by what else is going to happen there, but, that's not going to be developed commercial if you guys don't let it. It's not going to, you think we didn't all show up, we didn't encourage people to send emails, we didn't walk neighborhoods, we didn't do all those things for you guys to, for us to, in 5 years, allow something else commercial to go there. My husband and I bought that house to not have, to be out of a commercial development. I grew up in Orange Township, just off of Old State. My grandma has 9 acres that she just passed. That's not what this was intended for. This is not what this neighborhood was intended for. And when I walk to take my kids to the end of the driveway, that is all I'm going to see is that giant building right there. And that's not what any of us want. I do feel like this is a money grab for them. It's cheap. There's a million other places they could put that absolutely beautiful building that isn't cramming it on that tiny spot. Thank you.
Thank you.
My wife and I purchased a
Name and
house in
address, please.
I'm sorry?
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gary Matich, 6675 Lake Trail Drive, Westerville.
Thank you.
My wife and I purchased a home in Highland Lakes some 31 years ago. We purchased a unit in the villas at Maple Creek in 2008. We did do our homework, and we did look at the comprehensive plan, and we bought those properties, especially our home, because it was zoned residential. It's a lovely area, and we wanted to raise our family there, which we did. This, to me, interrupts that. It sounds to me like the purchasers didn't do their homework and look at those plans. You argued that it was a plan. A plan's a plan. Well, it's a comprehensive plan. That meant something to us. I'm hoping it means something to you as the trustees and the rest of the residents. I thank you for your attention.
Anybody else?
I'm Brian Ross, 7420 Africa Road. I've got the property to the east.
Thank you.
Last meeting, I brought up the fact that my biggest concern was the water runoff. So on this front cover, what you have is where you see the red stars. I set up a tripod 5 feet from the ground underneath those spots or above it and took pictures. Leveled the tripod, and the following 2 pages, I took a series of shots from the south and from the north. And I've tried to put a description on each shot so you have a better idea of what's at that intersection, and as far as what type of berm and where the water's going to flow. From the Worthington Road, there's virtually a 4-foot berm that's about 20 feet wide or 40 feet wide next to this property. So none of the moisture or precipitation that's going to go from 7408 will go towards Worthington Road. You also have a berm or a height at the front of Africa Road. Once again, that's going to be higher than any of the elevation. So once again, no moisture is going to go towards Africa. This property is at a high spot. It's all going to go to the southeast. I did not get 43082 rainfall. I did get Columbus, 41 inches of rain. 9 months out of the year, over 3 inches of rain. 3 months of the year, over 4 inches of rain. For a half acre, 1 inch rains over 13,500 gallons. For 3 inches of rain, it's 40,500 gallons. That water's got to go somewhere. Right now, that property, all that rain is going to end up on my property and the guy to the south. We're going to have a duck pond. I have a cottonwood that tries to keep the back corner of my property dry. In a wet year, I'm allowed to maybe mow around it 3 times because it's so wet. That's with the normal fall and with the green space that we currently have. If that's being flooded in one, I'm going to lose the tree because it's going to be in a pond. The drainage issue is a serious concern of mine, if nothing else. I tried to get this information to you guys sooner. I kept knocking it down because I thought I had an issue. Sending the email. I finally hand-delivered some today.
Yeah, we got the email today.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is helpful for you explaining. I wasn't sure what everything
Okay.
represented. This is good.
And I did meet with the county engineer, and they really haven't heard anything as far as the drainage proposals today, so. But that's, I just want to make it on record that, hey, there is a concern. The elevations show a nice flat elevation. The property is not set up right now like that. The berms that are, 4 feet high, you're not going to see 4 feet of the building because it's going to have to be recessed at least that far lower. So I'm just trying to make sure my concerns are brought up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be really fast because
Name and address.
my name is Mary McGrory. I live at 7473 Red Maple Place in the villas at Maple Creek. And a lot of the board is here, and the board is, we have been in solidarity that we're opposed to this. But my main point is about exactly what you were talking about, the residential, the plan for this to be a residential area. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, because I was looking at the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission minutes, And I also was at the first meeting by the commission, and both times the builder has said strict compliance would be a hardship for the applicant to seek approval of a subdivision plan for this project. In other words, the only way that they can do it is if they don't adhere to the rules that you guys have already put down. And they said it both at the zoning commission meeting, and it's in the minutes from the regional planning commission. So that's all I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susie Ross. I live at 6792 Southwold State Road. Jen Rolfe is my daughter. Luke's my son-in-law, and I spend a lot of time at their home helping with the kids. I just have several really quick points. It's been mentioned that they don't know what else they could use, what they could do with that lot if it doesn't happen, if this development doesn't happen, but it really would be affordable housing for a young family or a single parent who wanted to have their kids in Olentangy schools, and Lord knows we need affordable housing here. I see, when you see this many divergences on a piece of property, I see that as shoehorning in an inappropriate use, and I believe this would be inappropriate. Even the lighting divergence, even though it makes sense, if you think about it, if they did not get a divergence for that and they had lighting, that whole corner would light up in a solely residential area, and that to me is totally inappropriate. I understand that why they don't want lighting there, but I think that's part of it. It would just light up like a beacon, and I believe that all this is a lovely development. I'm sure this is a wonderful company. There are lots of places in the township where they belong, and this is not one of them. I believe that it is so tall, and that lot is so high just from where my daughter lives that it would really be obtrusive. It would be a big glowing building, daytime and nighttime. And also when they changed the site plan and had to push it so far up against the Ross house to the east, it is too close to his home for him to have any privacy at all. And it's almost a guarantee that in the future, he'll be coming down to a meeting here asking for rezoning so that he can turn his property into commercial or some other use other than residential. So thank you very much. I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Peter Mason, 7455 Red Maple Place, and part of the Maple Creek community. You are trustees, and the biggest concern I have, and I appreciate, Lisa, how you've articulated this, you're in trust with the properties of our community. And what I'm looking for is you enforcing the zoning regulations that you have. The concern that I have with creating this series of exceptions is that that reflects a lack of fulfilling your responsibility of fulfilling the purpose for the properties. And so we do see the domino effect coming from not a disregard. You know the comment made that the zoning laws are archaic. And I will say, well, but those are the zoning laws. And this is actually asking for zoning change and then divergencies from the zoning laws that would be in effect if it was commercial. So I'm just looking for you to follow the rules that are established. That helps us feel better as citizens in the community that you're protecting us for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Javen Singleton. I live at 7527 Africa Road. I bought my house in 2021. I never thought that I would have to worry about a commercial space being near my house, especially in that area. In fact, the only reason that I know about this is because some kind neighbor left a note on my door. After reading it and looking up the public records, the fact that it was given 2 pre-approvals for a commercial zoning in the middle of a residential area, I think it's egregious. I think it's nuts. I don't know how it got that far, and the only reason I know is because someone came and left a note on my door. Is there any way, I mean, I don't know how many people here are as involved in the community, because I'm not, I'm really not. I work too much. How many of you guys got a door? How do you know that this happened? How many, did you know, did you get a letter on your door? No? Yeah. How did it get this far? To the point where it's up to 4 people, no disrespect, it's up to 4 people to approve this. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But I appreciate the decision tonight. Thank you.
Michelle, do we notify everyone that's adjacent, or is it within 400? It's adjacent?
It's 200 feet.
Within 200
So if your
for zoning?
property is within 200 feet, that's what is that the statewide?
That is correct.
Yeah, it
But the
used to be
state actually is.
It used to be contiguous, didn't it? Is it both?
Okay.
Okay, so it's
Okay.
either contiguous or 200, or we do the 200, which is actually probably more than we need to. So by law, I think it's just contiguous properties need to be notified. So usually the word spreads through social media or neighbors or things like that.
Did we have the sign in the property of the upcoming hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can't read it, but yeah.
Okay.
So small.
Okay.
Are there any
Noted.
more
We'll
public comments?
Try and get a bigger sign.
Any more comments? Come on up.
Larry Sauer, 4670 Indian Court. I appreciate the commission's position they've taken on this. That, as far as I can tell, they find this to be, will have detrimental impact to the residential consumer, people living in this area, and I agree with that and everything that's been said so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment, but it's difficult for me to get up.
Can we pass her the microphone?
Oh, thank you very much. I could probably project enough, but.
It's helpful for the YouTube.
Thank you. My name is Dee Dee Metter. I live at 4563 Mapleside Place. Just a couple of things. We moved here 6 years ago from Etna Township in Pataskala, Ohio. And they were going through a lot and are still going through a lot of growth in that area. One of the things that we found that the zoning and the trustee committees were doing was allowing a lot of the farming, or FR1, to become commercial. And growth is necessary, definitely understand that. However, finally, the community came together and we were able, we hit them hard with, are we going to be, pardon my expression, a redneck village, or are we going to be a Lewis Center? That clicked. And once that clicked, everybody realized we wanted to grow and develop like Lewis Center. So here we are, moving up this way. And obviously, from an emotional perspective, we hope that you will, and thank you for your volunteer and what you do for the community. Hope that you're just listening to all of us that have just relocated, and those of who grown up in the area as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment before we close it? No? Nobody else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And I do have just a few comments before we get the applicant's response. Let's see here. So one thing that we're not technically allowed to consider when we're considering rezoning applications is the impact of traffic. So that's technically not under our purview, even though we do listen to those comments, but technically we can't consider the impact of traffic, even though I doubt this would add that much more, but we can't actually consider that. And also, if this were to be approved, it's illegal to discharge more water off your property after you develop it than it was before you develop it. So they would not be permitted to discharge. They would have to make it somehow work. in some way. So they would not be allowed, these drainage issues they're having, they would have to solve them beforehand and prove that they could do that if this were to be approved. It's that way for anything. I would argue also, when you reduce, like I think a resident said, reduce the setback from 30, or from 100 to 30, you're practically making that other property unusable at some point. You're going to reduce its value, and then it will end up wanting to go commercial as well, and then they'll even have a better argument. So I feel like that is a hardship that's going to end up affecting the neighboring properties as well, and devaluing them. Let's see. And we can argue that this would not set a precedence, but like I said, if it's developed commercially, no one's going to want to buy the house next to it. And so that house becomes worth, nothing. I do still think this property has a use, like was stated before. When I looked at homes for my middle son, who's trying to find a house that he can afford around here, there's really nothing under $275,000 in the area. And that's a very small house, but it's 900 square feet, but it seems like it's in good shape. It's got a reasonably sized lot, and I would think that it would still be able to be sold as residential, in my own opinion. Does the applicant have any responses to any of the comments by the residents?
Sorry, we took the mic.
I'll just say this, I thank you for your time. I was on their side last night. I'm on both sides of these things. I understand their concerns. We hear these all the time. I know people don't like to hear divergences. Sometimes they're needed to protect property rights, the private property owners. I think, in my view, this is one of those exceptions, but we are appreciative of their comments and their concerns tonight. I do think if there is an exception that should be made to your comp plan, this is one of those exceptions, but we just want to sit here and say we really appreciate everybody here give us a fair shake, and more than happy to answer any more questions.
My only other comment was, I understand the fact that you guys didn't go through the drainage design process or the septic design process, as you haven't purchased the property, and it's, it was up in the air as far as zoning, so I understand that there were those, kind of untied, ends, loose ends. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, I'll just state for the record so people know, sorry, is that the reason sometimes we don't go through those engineering plans is that they're very expensive. So there's no point, until we get the zoning, we don't even buy the property. So we don't want to incur those expenses. So it's not that we're trying to hide anything, it's just that you guys want to expend money on something that you're not going to get the value from. So I just want you guys to understand, we're not trying to hide anything, it's just economical, and this is how these things work. So thank you.
Could be hundreds of thousands of dollars to do engineering, and that is typically how it's done. You're not going to spend, I think the asking price was $350,000. I don't know what the contract is, but in addition, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to have it possibly turned down. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And you are, I was at right after the zoning commission meeting, you talked about how you guys are active in the community. I did hear an advertisement for your company at the Orange High School football game, so I was like, yes, I've heard of that. So thank you for being, participating in the community.
It seems like a great business. I mean, it really does. And so I did look up the valuation of this property back in, let's see, in 2019, according to the county auditor, and these are always a little bit lower than normal. It was worth about $108,000, but then they did a reevaluation after they took that property for the lane and some trees, and in 2020 it actually increased in value. Even after that $60,000 was spent and that property taken, they said it was worth $133,800. Currently, I think it's worth maybe $144,800 is what they're saying currently. So if the property owner was to argue that they couldn't get a reasonable return, I didn't see any evidence that they filed an appeal with the county valuation board to have that reduced. And everyone has the opportunity every 3 years when your property is valued, so I didn't see any evidence of that. Let's see, I have a couple. Do you guys have any more questions? I might have a couple things. So many notes.
I just have one comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just to say that thank you to all the residents for all the feedback you've provided about this zoning application, and I just wanted to note that I have not received one positive comment about potentially rezoning this use of the property. So I think that, speaks pretty heavily towards what the community would like to see from this particular area.
Yes. And our zoning resolution, just FYI, the purpose of our zoning resolution, it was enacted for the purpose of promoting public health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare, to conserve and protect the natural resources in scenic areas, to secure the most appropriate use of land, to facilitate adequate but economical provision for public improvements. So it's our job to determine if this is in the interest of the public convenience, comfort, prosperity, or general welfare, and in conjunction with the comprehensive land use plan. I do not find that it is. I don't think this will benefit the general welfare of the public. I mean, in the right place it would. I mean, like I've said, it's a beautiful building. It's obviously a very reputable business. I just don't think this is the location for it. And let's see here. One thing to note, that zoning actually cannot legally control the business hours of operation or the number of employees, correct? So in the future, if this was zoned as this kind of office, it could change hands or be rented to another business. Now, they would still have to, they couldn't change it to something completely different, like a gas station, but it could be a business that has, 50 employees, or maybe, depending what the limitations are, they could have, larger trucks or a more obnoxious use, or it could, in theory, it is correct that it could change to a different use in the future, as long as it's still in accordance with the approved plan. Let's see here, and I find there's just too many divergences, and the divergences are extreme. I don't find that it should be developed, in my opinion, as a commercial property. And like I said, I really like the rural feel of the area. I think this development would harm the neighboring property values, and I do believe it would set a precedent. And like I said, if this was in the plan to be commercial, then we couldn't do much about it, but it's not. I just don't think that we need to build things on every single empty parcel in the township unless we're legally obligated to by our plan. We have a land use plan for a reason. We are not the city of Columbus, and we never will be. All of us have property limitations. I can't sell my house and have a gas station built in my subdivision, and that's what the land use plan protects all of us from, is uses that don't match the surrounding area. So, is there any more questions? Okay. Are we ready for a motion?
It would be the bottom of page 2.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, make a motion to approve Resolution 24-321 to deny the recommendation of approval of the Zoning Commission as to zoning application number ZON-24-06 of Stellar Construction for rezoning from farm residential to planned commercial and office district.
Second?
Trustee Knapp?
Yes?
Trustee Ringel?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust?
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries.
All right. The application's been denied. So I just want to thank everyone for coming in, and thank you to the applicant for their professional presentation. And I don't believe there's any further business?
Nope.
Is there? Okay.